Hello, everybody. Miss Wade here. It's the second part of the notes, and this is on compound interest. All right, there's going to be two formulas you're going to use for these application problems. This first one is when interest is compounded a specific number of times. So let's talk about what the variables mean. So P is going to be the principal, which is basically how much money you start with. So the initial amount. And then R is the interest rate. And typically we want to put this in decimal form. So we'll say, oh, it's 5% interest or something. And then you need to make sure to convert it to a decimal. N is the number of times that the interest is compounded per year. So it might be monthly, it might be quarterly, whatever. It could be a lot of different things. T is time, and A is just basically the amount that you have, like the final amount. So just a tip on N. If it's yearly, N is equal to 1. If it's monthly, N is equal to 12. If it's quarterly, N is equal to 4, etc., etc. If it's like biannually, that happens 2 times a year. So I think you get the idea, right? So depending on the problem, it's going to tell you how the interest is compounded, and that's how you're going to know what N is. Obviously, if it's daily, how many days? Hopefully you know it's 365, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, now this one, when it doesn't say monthly, yearly, whatever, any of those things, but it says the word continuously. If it says continuously, then you use this formula. Sometimes we refer to it as the PERT formula, P-E-R-T. And it's the same thing. P is the principal, R is the interest rate, and T is the time. It's all the same stuff. The rate needs to be a decimal. So let's go ahead and do one of these examples. So on this first one, let's highlight kind of the important parts of this. So it says you invest $1,500. Okay. When you invest $1,500, that means that is the principal. That is how much you start with. Okay. It tells you that it's 5% interest. Well, that's the interest rate is 5%, and we have to make that a decimal. So that's going to be 0.05. And then it says you're investing it for 13 years. And then it tells you what if it was compounded quarterly, monthly, daily, continuously. Okay. So if it is quarterly, well, time is 13 years. And if it's quarterly, that means N is 4. If it's monthly, it means N is 12. And if it's daily, it means N is 365. So these are kind of repetitive. It's the same thing. So I'm just going to walk you through part of it, and then you should be able to figure out the rest on your own. So we put our formula down on the paper. The more times that you write it down, the easier it'll be for you to remember it. So there's our compound interest formula. So P is my principal. 1 plus 0.05 over 4 times 4 times 13. Now, one of the problems with these is students don't know how to do these as far as order of operations. So I'm going to walk you through this. The first part you're going to do is this fraction. Okay, so you are going to do 0.05 divided by 4, which gives us 0.0125. Okay, the next thing you're going to do is add it to 1. So you're going to do the stuff here inside the parentheses. So then when you do that, I'm going to just rewrite a little bit of this. You're going to get 1.0125. And then obviously you can do 4 times 13 is to the 52nd power. Now the next step that you're going to do is you're going to take this and do the power next. So I'm going to do 1.0125, and then it's the little caret button, 52. Okay. And then I'm going to take that times the 1500. So when it's all said and done, your answer for A is going to be 2,861.758. And we're just going to round to the nearest hundredth. And there's your answer. Okay. These are all going to be exactly the same. So we're going to set this up. It's all exactly the same, except this time n is 12. So 12 times 13. Over here, it's the same thing, 1500. 1 plus 0.05, but instead of a 12 or a 4, I have 365. And then 365 times 13. Okay, so go ahead and do those in your calculator and make sure that you get the correct answer. These are the answers. And just like I told you in the previous problem, you want to start from the inside, do this little fraction part first, add it to 1, raise it to the power, and then multiply by 1500. Now this one says continuously. Anytime it is continuously, we're going to use PERT. Okay, so I'm going to have my 1500 times E raised to the R, which is 0.05, because this is all the same interest rate, and 13 years. So on my calculator, 0.05 times 13 is 0.65. Let me make sure. Yep, 0.65. And so then I'm going to take E to that power. So E raised to the 0.65 times 1500 gives me 2,873.31. Okay, let me help you set up some of these other ones. Let's look up the key information. So on this one, you're investing 1,500, 6% compounded continuously for 5 years. So this one is continuously. So P is 1,500. My interest rate is 0.06, right? And the time is 5. And we're going to use PERT because it is compounded continuously. So we're going to put in our 1,500 e to the 0.06 times 5. And when you pop that in your calculator, you should get this. So do this part first, raise e to that power times 1,500. So let's see, 0.06 times 5, right? And then you want to do e to that power times 1,500. And that's how I get that answer. All right, next one. This is my principal. This is P. 7% interest. This is my R, 0.07. It says compounded quarterly, which means my N is 4. And then it says how much will be in there after 4 years. So that means T is 4. So I'm going to use my compound interest formula because it's not continuously. And I'm going to put everything in there. So I'm going to have P 1 plus 0.07 over 4 raised to the 4 times 4. So let's go through this. I told you want to do this part first, right? So let's see. 0.07 divided by 4 plus 1 gives us 1.0175. This is 16. So I raise that to the 16th power and then times 4,200. So that should give me 5,543.70 cents. Okay, so that's my answer. Okay, last but not least, last problem. So we're trying to save 4,500 for college. Now this is a little different because this is A. This is how much you want to have. Okay. and it's 4 years, which means time is 4. How much money will she need to invest, right? So that means P, we don't know what P is. And it's 2.7 compounded continuously. So I move the decimal, that means the interest rate is 0.027. And because it is continuously, I'm going to use PERT. Okay, so I know A, that's how much I want to have. I'm trying to figure out how much to invest. And then this is 0.027. And then time is 4 years. Okay, so what I want to do is I first want to figure out this part right here. Okay, then I can divide both sides by that number. So 0.027 times 4. And then I want to take E to that number, which gives me 4,500 equals 1.114, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, P. So I'm going to divide by that number. Now, I'm not going to round it. I'm going to leave it in my calculator and do 45,000 divided by, sorry about that, divided by answer. And I get 40,393. There it is. That's how much she has to invest to end up with 45,000 at the end of 4 years. All right. Thank you.